Hello and welcome to part 11 in this series where we are building a React application for managing books. In this part we're going to work with Cloud Functions to build a function that auto-generate thumbnails every time a user uploads a photo. Remember, here in our photo section for a book where we allow the user to upload images, we are restricting the size of each image to maximum 2000 pixels. Now for this gallery here, 2000 pixels is too much, so we need to generate thumbnails with 300 pixel maximum. So first, in our project here, we need to initialize Cloud Functions. We already have Firebase set up and initialized. Now we need to initialize the Cloud Functions. To initialize Cloud Function, we type in our console, which should be pointed to our main folder. We type Firebase init functions, which will create a folder called functions in the root of our application. This will install the dependencies inside our functions folder. It has nothing to do with our main application. Here Firebase will create a functions folder that has its own npm package manager, and inside this folder we'll have an index.js file, which inside of it we can create functions and export them. Google will read this file and set up these functions in the cloud once we deploy our project. Now if we check the folder that has been created, which is function, and we check the package.json, we see some dependencies. We have the Firebase admin. Firebase admin is an SDK package that work on the server, and the Firebase functions. Now these functions run on the server with a Node.js environment and some dev dependencies for testing. We have the functions initialized. In our index.js, we can start creating functions. Our first function will be triggered once a user uploads an image to Firebase storage. Now you can create different kind of functions. Here is an example for functions that will be triggered once an endpoint has been requested. Another type of function will be triggered on events related to Firestore or the real-time database. In our case, we want to trigger a function once an image has been added to our storage. Now let's create our first function, exports.generate thumbnail, which will be equal to functions.storage.object. Object mean that the function will listen to each object in the storage. Dot on finalize. Finalize mean once the object has been saved to our storage. Async. Now we'll get the object as the parameter of the callback function. Now the object is the actual file saved. Now we can get from the object the bucket that the object is saved in. So we can create constant file bucket equal object.bucket, and we can console.log the file bucket just to test. We can also get the file path with object.name, the content type with object.content type, and we can console.log the file bucket, the file path, and the content type. After creating this function, it's time to deploy it to test it online. Now Google provide an emulator to test functions locally, but unfortunately background functions that are triggered by storage are not supported by this emulator, so we have to test it on the server. One more thing I want to add is to check if the object is an image. So I will check for the content type dot start with image slash. Now if it's not an image, I will return console.log not an image. Second, I need to check the bucket directory path to see if it's images/books. So I don't want to make generate thumbnail, for example, for other profiles or other places. So just for books folder. Now I need the path. I'll import constant path should be equal require path. Now with path I can get the dir from the file path, which will be equal to path.dir name file path. So now I want to check if not dir equal to images/books. If not in this path, I will return. So this check is very important. So for the console.log, I will add to it some information for the dir, just for test. Now we will run this function and we will check what it will return in the Google console. So this is it. Now we need to deploy the function by running in the command Firebase deploy -- only functions. Now if you check your console in the functions section, you should see a function here called generate thumbnails. This means that this function is deployed. Now let's test it by uploading an image to Google storage. So if I go again to in my application, if I go to book details and go to photos, I can now drag an image here. Now if I go to my console and go to logs, I can see that I have here the console.log. This is the bucket name, the image type, plus the directory path, which is images/books, which means that the function for now it's working fine. Now the next step is to download the file in memory. So first we'll get the bucket. To get the bucket, we need Firebase admin. We get the Firebase admin by typing constant admin, which will be equal to require Firebase admin. This is Firebase for the server. So now with admin, I can get the storage dot bucket and I'll give it the file bucket. Next, I need to create a temporary file path, which will be equal to path.join. I need to join the path with the file name. I need to get the temporary directory. I need to use os.tmp dir. I'll join it with the file name, which I can get it with path.base name, and I'll give it the file path. Now I'll store this in a constant because I will use it in several places. So I will create a constant called file name, which will be equal to this operation. Here I will use the file name. Now this is where we want to download the file, and we need to create the constant metadata for the file with content type, which will be equal to content type. With the bucket, we can download the file, bucket.file.download. We can give it an object with destination, the temporary file path. This is an asynchronous operation, so we can await for it. That's why we made the function async. Now once it's done, we'll console.log image has been downloaded to temp file path. We need to initialize the app with admin.initialize app. Now here, since we are in the function, we don't need to provide the config information. Here, since we are using the OS, we need to import also this library. Again, we shall deploy. Alright, image has been downloaded. Here it means that the function has worked. So we have the file now downloaded to a temporary directory. What's left is to resize this image saved in this temporary folder, then upload it to our Google storage and append to it the sum keyword to the name. Next, we'll create the new sum file name. which will be sum file name. It will be equal to sum underscore plus the file name. Then we'll create the sum file path, which will be equal to path.join the dir, the directory of the file path, and we'll join it with the new sum file name. Now we'll resize the image with ImageMagick. Now Google provide us the ImageMagick library by default. We can use it to resize our image. To run a command on the console of the server, we need to use the spawn library from child process promise. So we create constant spawn equal require child process promise dot spawn. Now the spawn function will run the command provided in the command line asynchronously, so we can wait for the process to finish. So here we can await for spawn, and we'll give it the command here, which will be convert. This is the command for ImageMagick that will convert an image, and we'll give the parameter inside brackets for the command that we have specified. Here the convert take 4 parameter, the source, which will be temp file path, then thumbnail, then the dimension we need. Here we'll make it 400 by 400, not to exceed 400 by 400. This is the max dimension by specifying the larger than, and the last parameter is the destination. It will be the same path. Now once this is done, with console.log thumbnail has been created. Next we'll upload the new image by using the bucket.upload from temp file path, and the second parameter will contain the destination, which will be to sum file path, and the metadata will be equal to metadata, which we specified here. Once the thumbnail has been uploaded, we'll delete the local file to free up memory. Now we need to require the fs. So this is it. This will create a thumbnail of each file uploaded. Now we need to install the child process promise. npm install --save. Sorry. This needs to be inside the actual function. Now we can go to cd functions. Now we'll go back. Alright. Just to make sure, we'll check the package.json. We'll see that child process promise is in the dependencies. Unlink sync to make sure the file has been removed before we quit the function. One thing we have forgot is here with .upload, we're adding an image. So we're saving an image, and this function will run each time an image has been saved. So here we'll be entering an endless loop. So to prevent this loop, we need to check if the image name contain a sum underscore, we return. If file name dot starts with sum underscore, then we'll return console.log image already a thumbnail. This way we will prevent the endless loop. So now we can deploy our function. Now here in the log, we can see that the first time the thumbnail has been created, second time the execution of this function has been stopped because the new file is already a thumbnail that is added by the first call of the function. So if we go to our storage, we should expect now a small thumbnail image. Here it is. Now we have a thumbnail which has a about 50 kilobyte of size compared to the original image, which has about 500 kilobyte of size. Now we have the function running perfectly. Next, we'll display, instead of the fill size image, we'll display the sums here. Now to display the thumbnails, we go to the book photos component. Here we are displaying the gallery. If we go to the gallery, which is a UI element, here's the link. We can change the name to prefix it with a thumb underscore using a JavaScript function. So we'll create this function here in the functions folder where we have the image functions. We'll create a function. It will take the two parameters, the URL and the prefix that we need to add to the file name. Now to get the file name, we'll create a variable file name which will be url.split. So we need here to use %2 F, capital F. Now we split the string into an array whenever we encounter the %2 F, and then we pop the last item, which will be the file name. After this, we'll change the file name to prefix it with the provided prefix in the parameter. So then we need to join the file name with the directory of the URL without its current file name. So first we return the directory path. To get the directory path, we'll again split on the %2 F. Then we'll slice the last element, 0, -1. Then we'll join with the encoded slash. Now we'll add the new file name, alright, separated by an encoded slash. So now to use this function, first we'll export it from this file, and in the gallery where we are using the image, remember here's the photos, use the gallery that display a list of images. Now the URL is applied here in the image element. So first we'll import this function, and we'll use it here in the source. Now if we check, we see that we are using the thumbnail, which is 400 by 400 pixel. This is great. Now once we delete an image, we need to delete both images, the original and the thumbnail. So here in the book photo where we have the delete function, here we are deleting the original. Now we'll add another delete also from storage, and this time will be the thumbnail. So we'll use the function again here. To add the thumb prefix to the file name. Now let's try it. If I delete, alright, it seems that it works. If I go to my storage, I see that I have the two images. Now if I reload, they should be gone. And they are gone. Now before we move on, if you have following me in this series, there is a mistake that I have made in the functions that resize images. Here I'm setting the default width and height to the size, which force the image, in case it is a small image where both the width and height are lesser than the size, the restriction size. So here, instead of forcing it to have the size of the restriction, we'll use the image.natural width for the width and the natural height for the height. Now here, if in case the image is larger than the restriction and it is a wide image, we'll set the width to the restriction and we'll calculate the height. In case if it's portrait, we'll set the height to the restriction and we'll calculate the width proportionally. So now if I upload an image Alright, as you can see, the image has returned a 404. I will fix it in a second, but if I reload, I will see the image. I will explain what is happening here. But for our current issue here, we see that the image still has the same dimension because this is a small image. It hasn't been changed. Before we applying this fix, the image will be transformed into a square because we are applying the restriction, which is 2000. So the image will be 2000 by 2000, and the thumbnail will be 400 by 400. Now if I test with another images, let's say these two images, as you can see, one has been displayed, the other has returned a 404, because here the thumbnail hasn't been finished yet. We can't know when the thumbnail is finished because the function that creates the thumbnail is running in the background. So in the book photos where we upload the image, once the upload is done, we are directly dispatching an action that add the image URL to our state. But the problem is we can't wait here for the function that generates thumbnail to finish before dispatching. So this is an issue for our situation, since once the task of uploading the image done, we need to display the thumbnail. So to solve this problem, we'll have to change from creating a background function to creating a function callable from the front end. Functions that are callable from the front end can return a promise, and we can wait for this promise before continuing the process. To create a front end function, we'll use function.http.onCall, which will get the as a parameter data and the context that has some context of the request or the user who calls this function. With the data we can send the file bucket, so we can use here data.fileBucket. For the file path also we can send it in the data, and the same for the content type, we can send it in the data. The rest will be the same. Now we don't need to check whether it is an image or not because we are verifying it in the front end, and we don't need this check here because we now are calling the function. It's not being called automatically. Neither we want this. And here we'll return this promise, and we'll use the .then to run this, and we will return true once this is done. So for the promise to resolve. Now to use this function on the front end, first we need to import Firebase /functions. Now in the book photos we can use Firebase.functions.https callable, and we specify the name of the function. In this case it is generate thumbnail. We store the function that is returned inside a constant. We'll name it generate thumbnails. Now here we can await for the call of generate thumbnail, and we can give it the data required in an object. We need the bucket, which will be the upload task.snapshot.ref.bucket. What do we have? We also need the name. Let's name it full path, and the content type. So the full path will be upload task.fullpath. Now for the content type it will be, we already know it, image/JPEG, and that's it. It should hopefully work. So alright, here we got an error. It's supposed to be HTTPS. Changing the function trigger type is not allowed. So what we will do, we will delete the function from our Firebase console, and we'll deploy a brand new function. We'll deploy it. it is complete. So if we wrap it in a try catch to see error, here it is actually full pass capital P. So after deploying the function, we can now give it a try. So if we deploy now an image, it should wait for the thumbnail to be created before displaying the image in the gallery. And here it is working. If we inspect this image, it is a thumbnail. And if we go to our storage, images, books, we see that 8.7 has a thumb, which is the image we already uploaded. It is 8.7. Both thumbnail and the large image has been successfully uploaded. Now we're done for this session. We had a great look on Google Cloud Functions, how to use background functions and callable functions. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumb up and subscribe to my channel for more tutorials on React and Firebase.